Hello. My name is Emma. I live alone in a quiet Victorian house tucked away in the suburbs of Charleston, South Carolina. My husband, Richard, passed away 4 years ago. And ever since, the house has felt too big, too quiet, and frankly, too empty. Some nights, I could hear the echoes of our laughter in the hallways. Fading like the scent of his aftershave in the closet, I filled my days with gardening, knitting, and the occasional walk to the farmer's market. But the silence, it never left. That's why, when the phone rang on a chilly October evening and I heard my son Jason on the other end, his voice shaky, urgent, I didn't hesitate. "Mom, we're being evicted," he said. "Kendra lost her job last month, and the landlord just sold the house. We have to be out by Friday." I didn't even think twice. "Of course. Come on over," I said. "The house is big. There's room for everyone." Jason is my youngest. He and Kendra have 2 kids, Noah, who's 9, and Lacey, who's just turned 12. I imagined them packing up in a panic, stressed and overwhelmed. And I thought, this is what family is for. When life gets tough, we open our doors and we hold each other up. They arrived that Friday evening. Rain was falling in slow, steady sheets as headlights rolled up my driveway. Jason climbed out of the van and started unloading boxes, while the kids burst through the front door like it was Christmas morning. I stood in the foyer, smiling until I noticed Kendra. She stepped into my hallway like she was touring a property she might buy. Her eyes moved from the antique lamp Richard and I bought on our honeymoon, to the floral runner I crocheted last winter, to the china cabinet that held my grandmother's dishes. She didn't say much, just nodded, half smiled. At first, I thought she was just overwhelmed. After all, losing a home is hard. Starting over is harder. "Mom, we're so grateful," Jason said, giving me a quick hug. "It's only for a couple of months, just until we find something else." Kendra nodded, but her silence made me uneasy. Still, I brushed it off. I gave them the upstairs 2 bedrooms and a small bathroom. I stayed in my room downstairs, next to the kitchen. We figured it would just be easier that way. Privacy for them, peace for me. The first few weeks were manageable. Jason worked long shifts at the repair shop. Kendra stayed home with the kids while job hunting. And the house was, if anything, alive again. Laughter on the stairs, little feet tapping across the floorboards, the thump of a basketball hitting the wall outside. I'd sit on the porch in the evenings, sipping tea, watching them all through the window. And a part of me thought maybe this is good. Maybe I've needed this. But even then, I should have noticed the way Kendra started moving things around without asking. The way she referred to our space instead of your home. The way my quiet life began to shift, inch by inch, like the tide. Looking back, that October night didn't mark the return of warmth to my house. It marked the beginning of a slow, unraveling one I didn't yet have the heart to see. And I think the first warning sign came the day I found my favorite table runner gone. It was a hand-stitched piece, delicate blue thread on soft white linen, something I'd embroidered with my own hands. The winter after Richard passed. It wasn't just decor. It was memory, legacy, comfort. In its place on the kitchen table sat a bright plastic cover decorated with cartoon owls and spilled juice. "Oh." I tucked the other one away. Kendra said casually when I asked, "It's too fancy for the kids." "This one's easier to clean." That word tucked hit me strange. as if something precious could be folded away like clutter. But I smiled, nodded, let it go. After all, she was right. Kids spill things. What's a table runner in the grand scheme of things? But then came the furniture shuffle. One afternoon, I came home from the store and found Kendra in the living room, dragging my old sofa, Richard's favorite, away from the window. The window that always poured in afternoon light? The window where he used to sit with his crossword puzzle and a blanket across his lap? Hope you don't mind, she said, not even stopping. The light's too bright for the kids' homework. It's easier if we turn the sofa. I said nothing. I let her move it. But a quiet shift had begun. This wasn't just about practicality anymore. It was about space, presence, authority. In the fridge, my cottage cheese and mixed greens began disappearing, replaced by juice boxes, processed meals, and tubs of sweet yogurt with cartoon lids. The grocery list was no longer mine. It became Kendra's domain. She did a big shop every Sunday and filled every shelf. If I asked for something specific, she'd wave me off with, "Oh, I didn't see it on sale." Even my radio wasn't safe. One morning, I was listening to my usual classical station while prepping breakfast bach. I think it was when Noah barged in, grabbed the dial, and twisted it without a word. "Grandma, that stuff's boring." I waited for Kendra to correct him. She didn't. Later that same week, I walked into my backyard and found something missing. My roses. My beautiful, stubborn, loyal rose bushes I had been pruning for over 10 years. Uprooted. Gone. In their place was a splintery swing set and a sandbox. They needed somewhere to play, Kendra said with a smile, brushing soil off her hands. "You can replant those somewhere else." Right, but there was nowhere else. That garden was all I had, and she had ripped it up without a word. Jason stayed out of it. He came home late, tired. He ate. He watched television. He went to bed. Whenever I hinted that maybe things were getting out of hand, he'd put an arm around me and say, "Mom, please don't make waves. Kendra's doing her best. It's just temporary." But temporary was stretching thin. I began to feel invisible in the very home I once decorated with love, where I raised 2 boys, where I buried my husband's ashes under the maple tree out back. Little by little, my routines, my music, my meals, my quiet were being boxed up, moved, or erased. And every time I protested, the answer came with a smile, or a thanks for understanding, or, worst of all, silence. No one said it out loud, but the message was clear. This may still be your house, Emma, but it's no longer your home. And by the start of summer, I no longer recognized the house I had lived in for nearly 30 years. Once, it had been filled with peace, quiet mornings, warm light through the curtains, the gentle clink of a teaspoon in my teacup. But now, it was all noise, doors slamming, cartoons blaring, Kendra's voice echoing down the stairwell, barking orders or chatting loudly with one of her many mom friends on speakerphone. At first, she would at least ask, "Emma, do you mind if my friend Carly drops by for coffee tomorrow?" But soon that shifted into Carly's coming over. She'll bring her toddler. Just a heads up. Then eventually we've got friends coming for dinner. Can you make sure the kitchen's cleared by 6? The shift wasn't just in language, it was in tone. It was assumption, not invitation. I tried to push through. I told myself this was family. I told myself I was overreacting. But when I couldn't even watch the evening news in the living room without someone changing the channel mid-broadcast, I realized something deeply painful. I had become the guest in my own home. The final straw came one Saturday. I had invited my old friend Deborah for tea. Nothing fancy. Just two friends catching up. We'd done it for years. Ever since our nursing days at St. Ada. Mary's. I baked lemon scones. Polished the good china. Even set the table in the living room near the big bay window. But before Deborah even arrived, Kendra stopped me in the hallway. You didn't mention you were having company. I told Jason last week. Just a little tea with Deborah. She crossed her arms. The kids always play in the living room on Saturdays. Can you move to the kitchen instead? I stood there frozen. The kitchen, I asked. Gently. There's barely room for two chairs. Well, she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You should have planned better. I ended up canceling. That night, I sat in my room. Lights off, listening to the laughter coming from the living room. Kendra had invited 3 of her girlfriends over. Their kids were running through the house like it was a jungle gym. My scones sat untouched in the fridge. My teacups remained wrapped in linen napkins. Unopened. Jason, as usual, said nothing. And the children. They had stopped calling me Grandma with affection. Now it was routine. Like a title. Not a person. Wade would glance up from his tablet and ask, Grandma, where's Mom? Before going back to his game. Lacey once told me my room smelled like old people. I laughed it off. But inside, I wilted a little. I wasn't a grandmother anymore. I wasn't even a housemate. I was the background. And yet, what hurt more than anything wasn't the noise or the rearranged furniture or the plastic tablecloths. It was the feeling that everything I had poured my life into this house, this family, these memories, was slowly being overwritten. Bit by bit. Memory by memory. They were painting over me. One afternoon, I stood in the garden, what used to be my sanctuary, and looked at the empty patch where my rose bushes once bloomed. All that remained was the swing set and a forgotten juice pouch lying in the mulch. That's when I knew. They weren't just borrowing space. They were planting roots. And I was the one being uprooted. And something inside me broke the morning I overheard Kendra on the phone. It was a Tuesday. I was folding laundry in the hallway when her voice drifted up from the kitchen. Just loud enough to catch every word. She's not going anywhere, Kendra said with a chuckle. Where would she even go? She's got no one else. No job. No savings. We've got her exactly where we need her. She laughed. Like it was all some inside joke. Then added, old people are stubborn. But eventually, they get tired. I stood there. Frozen socks in one hand, towel in the other. I felt like I'd been slapped. I wasn't a burden. I had opened my home. I had fed her children. I had made space for her life. And now I was a convenience. That afternoon, I pulled out the deed to the house from the safe in the hallway closet. My name, Emma Rose Mitchell, sat alone on the title. No co-owner. No legal obligation. Just me. It was still mine. So, for the first time in over 2 years, I did something entirely for myself. I called a real estate agency. Hi, I said, forcing calm into my voice. I'm considering selling my home. I'd like to schedule an appraisal. The woman on the other end, Patricia, was kind and professional. We set an appointment for Thursday. I told Jason and Kendra they were insurance agents coming for a policy renewal. No one questioned it. When Patricia arrived, she walked the house quietly, noting details I hadn't thought about in years. The restored hardwood floors Richard had worked on by hand. The ornate crown molding. The original windows with glass so thin, they shimmered. She especially liked the garden. Despite the swing set, you could list this between $430. and $450. Ling, she said. It's a beautiful property. I nearly choked. Richard and I bought it for $82. Back in 1995. With that kind of money, I could afford a small condo. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere mine. The idea both terrified and thrilled me. Later that night, I sat on the back porch alone, listening to the sound of laughter inside. Jason and the kids were watching a superhero movie. Kendra was video chatting on the couch. None of them noticed I'd been gone for hours. None of them cared. I looked out toward the old garden beds now flattened, lifeless, and thought of Richard. He would have hated this, the way they took over, the way I let them. And then I heard her again. Kendra? From inside, talking to someone on speaker. If it were up to me, I'd move her into a nice assisted living place. Someplace with nurses and bingo nights. You know, where she belongs. Where I belong. No. The next morning, I called Patricia and asked to see condos. Small ones. Quiet ones. Something with a balcony where I could plant new roses. We toured 3 places in one day. The third one, it felt right. A 1-bedroom on the 4th floor of a building near Mount Pleasant. Clean. Bright. With a tiny patio and white kitchen cabinets. Nothing fancy. But mine. I signed the preliminary paperwork 2 days later. Back home. No one noticed the shift in me. Not even Jason. I started packing little by little books. Heirlooms. Photos. I kept the boxes in the attic, tucked behind the Christmas lights. And, for the first time in months, I slept with the door to my room unlocked. Because soon, I wouldn't need to guard my space. Soon, I would own it again. And the day I told them I sold the house was the first time they truly looked at me in 2 years. It was a Sunday night. Dinner was the usual chaos, Lacey arguing about broccoli, Noah slurping juice from the carton, Jason scrolling on his phone, and Kendra reheating takeout like she was feeding a frat house. I waited until they were all at the table. I have something to say. I began. No one looked up. I've sold the house. The closing date is set for the 15th. Silence. For a few seconds, the only sound was the dishwasher humming in the background. Then, Kendra dropped her fork. You would I sold the house. I repeated. Calmly. I met with a realtor. Signed the contract. And the buyers are moving in next week. Jason blinked, as if he didn't understand the words coming out of my mouth. Mom, are you joking I'm not? Emma, Kendra said slowly, her voice trembling with anger. You can't just throw your family out. We have kids. I'm not throwing anyone out. I said, voice steady. But I am moving on. And the house goes with me. Jason stood up, eyes wide. Why didn't you talk to us? Why didn't you give us time? I did. For months. I asked about your moving plans. You always said soon. We're looking. But nothing changed. Kendra stood now. 2. Voice rising. You're choosing strangers over your grandchildren, over your own son. I'm choosing my sanity. I replied. And a place where I can drink tea with friends without asking for permission. You're being dramatic. She snapped. Am I? You tore out my roses. You silenced my music. You rearranged my furniture. Erased my routines. Made me feel like a visitor in my own home. And when I asked for just one afternoon with my friends, you said no. Kendra's face turned red. You're selfish. Jason rubbed his forehead. Can we all just calm down? No. Jason. I said, looking directly at him. Your wife told someone I belonged in assisted living. She's been planning to move me out without even speaking to me. Jason looked stunned. Is that true? Kendra scoffed. I said maybe it would be better for her, more care. Less stress. For me, I laughed. Bitterly. You don't get to decide what's better for me. This house is mine. And now? It's not. Because you pushed me to the point where I had to choose between my peace and your convenience. Lacey. Wide-eyed. Whispered. Grandma, are we not going to live here anymore? I softened. You'll have a new home. Sweetie. One, your parents will make special. But this house, it's going to a family that will treat it with love. And what about us? Kendra hissed. You expect us to find a place in a week. You have 2 weeks. And yes, I expect that. Because I did it. With no help. No support. And while being treated like an afterthought. Jason sighed deeply. Mom, I never wanted this to happen. No one did. But no one stopped it either. For the first time in 2 years, I felt taller than my 5 feet 4 inches. I felt like Emma Mitchell again, not Grandma. Not background noise. Not an obligation. Just me. Kendra stormed off without another word. Jason sat down slowly. Defeated. The kids didn't speak. And I stood there. Heart pounding. But finally free. And I woke up on the 18th of October with nothing but 2 suitcases. A potted fern. And a key to my future. The sun was just rising over Mount Pleasant, casting soft gold across the quiet streets. I stood at the window of my temporary room in a local inn and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, the air felt light, not heavy with tension, not filtered through someone else's chaos, just mine. At 9 AWW. M. Sharp. Patricia. My real estate agent, and now something of a guardian angel. Pulled up in front of my new apartment complex. You ready? She asked, smiling as she popped open the trunk. I nodded. I've been ready for a long time. The condo was small. Yes, but perfect. Clean beige walls. Soft carpet under my feet. White cabinets in the kitchen. And a cozy little balcony that overlooked a tree-lined courtyard. There was even a spot for my rocking chair, the one I had to leave behind. By noon, my things were unpacked. It didn't take long. A few books. My tea set. A worn photo of Richard from our 25th anniversary. That was all I really needed. That. And silence. Good silence. The kind that wraps around you like a blanket, not the kind that shames you into the corners of your own home. I made a pot of chamomile tea and sat on the balcony, watching the breeze nudge the leaves. It was still strange. Still lonely. But not sad. I hadn't felt peace like this since before Jason brought his family to my doorstep. That evening, I called my friend Deborah. Emma, she said with genuine warmth. How's your new place? I looked around. At the soft lamplight, the uncluttered counters, the quiet hum of a space that belonged only to me. It's lovely, I said, and it finally feels like I can breathe. Later that week, something unexpected happened. Ethan, my eldest, called. He'd been living in Atlanta for years, busy with work and long hours. But now, he was thinking of moving back to Charleston. I heard what happened with Jason and Kendra, he said. I should have been more present. I'm sorry. Mom, you have your own life. I told him. I never held that against you. Still? He continued. I want to be closer. Maybe find something nearby. I could work remote now. And maybe keep an eye on you. I smiled. That would be nice. Ethan. A few days later, I helped him connect with the couple who had bought my old house. Turns out, they had a finished garage apartment. They were willing to rent cheap. Ethan took it. Just like that. My family wasn't entirely gone. Just rearranged. As for Jason and Kendra, they moved into a 2-bedroom rental across town. I haven't heard from Kendra since the day they left. But Jason did call. Once. Late at night. Mom, he said quietly. I'm sorry. For not standing up. For letting it get that far? I know. Jason. I told him. I forgave you long before the for sale sign went up. Can the kids still visit? Of course. I said. When they're ready. And they did. Eventually, Noah came first. Shy and unsure. Holding a school project he wanted to show me. Lacey followed weeks later. Quieter than usual, but she hugged me before leaving. This new life. It isn't perfect. It isn't flashy. But it's mine. And after years of being a guest in my own story, I finally reclaimed the pen. And this is the first time in years I've been able to say I am at peace. It's been nearly 3 months since I moved into my new apartment. The boxes are gone. The shelves are filled with books. I actually want to read. My tea kettle whistles each morning just the way it used to when Richard was alive. The rhythms of this place, they're mine. No one turns down my music. No one moves my furniture. No one makes me feel small. And, oh, the quiet, it isn't empty anymore. It's sacred. Every Friday afternoon, Deborah and Clara come over. We sit on my little balcony, sip tea, and talk about everything: recipes, memories, our aching knees. We laugh too loud and stay too long. And no one glares from a hallway or reminds us the kids are resting. I'm no longer tiptoeing. I'm living. One Thursday, I got a call that surprised me. It was Selena Baxter, the woman who bought my old house. She'd been settling in with her husband and their 2 kids. And from what I'd heard, they were doing beautifully. Emma, she said, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. My Aunt Esther lives up in Asheville. And she recently told me her best friend is someone named Deborah, who always talks about a friend named Emma. I chuckled. That would be me. Well, she continued. Small world. She speaks so fondly of you. Anyway, my husband and I have this converted guest suite above the garage. We were thinking it's cozy, quiet. If someone in your family ever needed a place nearby, we'd be happy to rent it out. Cheap. Honestly, we just love having good people close. Funny how the world turns. That same week, Ethan officially moved in. Just a 10-minute drive from me now. He stops by on Sundays with bagels and stories from work. He's found joy in slowing down. And I've found comfort knowing someone truly cares. As for Jason and Kendra, I still haven't spoken much with her, and I've made peace with that. Jason tries. He calls every few weeks. He updates me on the kids. And slowly, they've started coming around again. Lacey baked muffins last weekend. From scratch? She said she wanted to learn from me real grandma baking. As she called it, Noah brought over a drawing of my new place. It was crooked and sweet, with the caption, Grandma's Happy House. He's right. It is a happy house. There are still quiet moments when I miss the old garden. I miss Richard's laugh echoing down the hallway. I miss the version of my family. I thought I had the one where love meant respect, and where kindness wasn't mistaken for weakness. But those things, they live in me, not in four walls, not in rose bushes. I've learned something in all of this. Being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. Hospitality isn't a contract. And family, real family, doesn't take without giving. They don't silence your music, hide your teacups, or erase your presence, one quiet moment at a time. They see you. They value you. And if they don't, you don't owe them your peace. Today, I walked to the little cafe on the corner, picked up a cinnamon roll, and sat by the window, watching people come and go. A woman next to me struck up conversation. She said, "You look like someone who knows how to enjoy life." I smiled. "Not always," I said. But I finally remembered how